Canadian Prepper here. Wanted to talk a bit today about takedown archery and how it can be used in a bug out bag or an I'm never coming home bag or a get out of dodge bag or whatever you want to call it. Archery, as I discussed in the last video, does have some benefits over firearms. They're not many, but there are a few when it comes to bugging out or WROL or whatever you want to call it. So this is just a sort of miniaturized takedown recurve kit that I've compiled for you today. And just to give you a few ideas, if you haven't ever explored archery at all, I'll sort of be speaking to you in this video. I'm not necessarily speaking to people who are experts at archery. I'm certainly not an expert, but you know, I've been doing prepping for a while and I've been doing archery for a few years now, so I can kind of perhaps contribute a bit, at least in the conceptualization of what you might need and how you could put it together. So I'll quickly go over what the items are that you see here. They're all items that I think a person would benefit from. I never want to say need, because need is a big word in prepping. So first thing is a glove. That's to protect your hands from the string. It's after shooting a bow several times, just practicing, you're going to want some protection for your hands. This is like a super glue. It's called Fast Fletch. It dries very quickly, and it's almost as strong as super glue. It might not have as many functions as super glue, so if you have super glue in your kit already, that might be something that you could use interchangeably for the purpose of archery. Now this is wax. You can get a thicker wax, which is harder, that you actually have to, you can put on your bowstring. This is to keep the bowstring from getting too dry and fraying or breaking or something like that. And you could always use the wax for other parts of your system as opposed to just the bowstring. This is a more higher viscosity wax, kind of comes in a chapstick form, runs out a bit quicker but much easier to apply, and a little easier in the application on your string. Now this stuff you can heat up, and that could aid in the application as long as it's not that hot that you're not damaging your bowstring. In this little pouch here, just keep, there's some other sticks of glue, but Knox, that's a knock, that goes on the back of the arrow. And these are inserts. Now these inserts are used for the insertion of a field point. This is one of the takedown arrows, so this insert would stick into there. Sometimes they come out, sometimes they break, or field point gets stuck in there, or stripped in there or something like that. So it's good to have a few inserts on hand also, and these can be used, something similar to this can be used for the purpose of making takedown arrows. This is a bowstring silencer, so you don't necessarily need this, and you could probably make it out of natural fibers, but it's something you might want to consider. This is just vanes, fletching, pre-made. So small or large, I believe that small tends to be, they create less drag, so you're going to get further distance as opposed to, but they might not be as accurate as a larger vane, which will give you more stabilizing, more aerodynamic stabilizing, but more drag, so it's not going to give you as much distance. Now there's debate about that in the archery community, and it depends on the material that you're using for the vane also, so that's something to take into consideration. One thing I should say about string silencers is it's important to recognize that animals have very good reaction times, and I believe that the speed of sound is something to the effect of 350 meters per second, and the speed of like the fastest crossbow or recurve bow, in this instance, we'll talk about the recurve bow, is going to be about 175 to 200 feet per second. So the deer hears you shooting the arrow before, like just as it's released, and it's going to react a second ahead before the bow even approaches it, and actually penetrates it, and they call that jumping the string. So it's going to hear, the sound's going to hit it before the arrow does. So sometimes they say you have to position your shot ahead of where the deer would run to, because it's going to hear the shot and jump the string. But that's probably a topic for itself to discuss, and you could discuss that with people who are more learned in the ways of archery hunting. Next, we have the string stuff. So this is a stealth braid spider wire fishing line. Now this is kind of overkill. This is 100-pound test. You definitely don't need that level of durability for bowstring, but just to be on the safe side, if you're doing a continuous loop bowstring, I'm going to post a link to a video that shows you how to make continuous loop bowstrings. It's really not that hard. It doesn't take that long to set everything up. There is a few things you need to do, but once you get the hang of it, it's actually quite easy. And I use this just because I want to be on the safe side. This is a bowstring that I made. You want to keep them in plastic wrap just to keep them nice and dry. Not dry, but unused. And so this is the riser wire. That's the bowstring there. Pardon my hands, I've been painting the last couple days. And not perfect, but workable. The hardest part on these is making the loops and getting that riser wire connected there. See if I can zoom in there for you. So, as you can see, that's the bowstring. So if I can't find the link for the video on how to make continuous loop bowstring, I'm going to just make the video myself, show you how to do it. So you're going to want a few of these, probably pre-made. One bowstring, if taken care of, should last you for hundreds of shots, I'd say, if you take care of it. But with this, you pretty much have 20 bowstrings if you want, depending on how, this one's 300 yards. I'm not sure exactly how much it takes to use them. It depends on how many loops you want to do. The more loops, the stronger the string's going to be, but the thicker it's going to be also, so it can make more noise. So there's trade-offs like that to consider. This is riser wire. This is that wire that was coiled around the string, and you can buy one of these. They're pretty cheap. Probably don't even need one, but probably best to have it. This is a bow stringer. Gonna want that. You don't necessarily need it, once again, but I believe that it's probably better for the bow that you string it that way. Some people might disagree. I just think it's more systematic. It's less variable. It's going to be, you're going to be stringing it the same way every time, and it's not going to be sort of around the leg. And although I'd say that's the more natural way to do it without a bow stringer, but especially if your bow's newer, hasn't seen a lot of use, it's going to take a while to get that flexibility in there so that it's easy to use. Now this is a PSE Mustang recurve bow. I just put some camo duct tape on there just to make it look cool, a little more camouflage. It's 50-pound bow. It breaks down to about 18 inches, about the same length of a gun barrel, maybe a bit more than that, maybe 20 inches or so. And it's about, I don't know, it's not that much, maybe 2.5 pounds, something like that. The limbs are pretty small too. Now I've taken care of, you can see where it screws in there. I've taken care of, it's going to last a long time. If you were really paranoid about, never coming home, you could always throw in an extra limb or an extra set of limbs if you wanted to. They're pretty light. They don't take up a whole lot of space. But then again, if you're talking about a bug out bag, all this stuff eventually takes up a bit of space. This stuff, not really. It can pack down into something, like that. But the arrows and the bigger things do. And of course the bolts to screw those things in there. Now this is the Dave Canterbury referral, the Primal Gear bow. And I personally I think that the takedown is, if you can get a takedown recurve, you're looking just as good. I mean, this thing is going to last forever. Don't get me wrong. There's, some people say it gets loose and stuff, but it's made of metal and it's heavy. It's going to last forever. The problem with it is it's big. It might not seem that big when you see it, but look at it compared to the recurve bow. It's longer, and I guarantee you it's about twice as heavy. Well, maybe not twice as heavy. Maybe it's definitely heavier. It feels heavier to me. And it's just a longer shape. Now, this is problematic depending on the backpack you're using. So say, for instance, you're using a 511 pack. 511 24, Rush 24. That's the problem right there. Way too fucking big. Now you could say, oh, you can mount it to the side, but, still pretty fucking big. You may as well pack a survival rifle. This, on the other hand, could fit just like that. And the actual riser itself can fit with the whisker biscuit, I should add. That really helps out the aim, I find. Real archers don't need it. I'm not really a real archer, I'm just a prepper. So that fits in there. It's a little tight, but it works. So, just wanted to show you that, to give you an idea of what you're getting yourself into if you get one of those. Now, I know Dave knows this shit, don't get me wrong. If he's referring something, I'm going to back him up on it, because he's one of the few survivalists that I really respect. I mean, the guy had his own show, and he, for whatever reason, I don't know if he gave it up, but he gives all his information for free, and there's thousands of videos that he's put on YouTube that pretty much, if you downloaded all those videos, put them on a hard drive, store the hard drive somewhere, just in case. And maybe even donate some money to him or buy something from him, because he really does put out a lot of information. So a shout out to Dave at the Wilderness Survival School. I can't remember what it's called. I'll post a link right here. Anyways, last but not least, the Takedown arrows. Now these I did buy from Dave Canterbury, and I think they're worth it. I've used them. I didn't want to use them too much because, I have target arrows for that. But now the problem with Takedown arrows, and you need to be careful, is that any sort of vulnerability around here is something to look out for, because that's the part of the spine that's the most critical. So having that held together by just one screw, something I was debatable about, and I asked Dave this, and he actually replied, and he said that he didn't think it would be a problem. So once again, I take his word for it, and I've never had anything bad happen. Now the idea, what can happen, is that if there's a crack in your bow, for instance, or if there's a weak point in your bow, when you're pulling back the arrow, that weak point has to go around the riser when it's being released and re-stabilize itself, recenter itself towards the target. Now, if that point is too weak, it can actually break under the pressure of the string, and it breaks like within an instant. And so this broken half has separated from here. I'll just show you in slow-mo. So the arrow has left the string. I'm still holding onto the riser here, and then this part will, in some instances, come through the hand. Now, it's a very, very rare thing, but I've seen it. Seen pictures of it. It's actually a bit more, it's not common, but it does happen. So something to consider. Now these arrows, I think they were around the same, I don't want to say, the same price as normal arrows. They were a little more expensive, but, which is usually for a good arrow, you're looking at about $10 for an arrow. But, consider, people will say, well, $10 is 20 shotgun shells, but I don't know, today's price is probably a lot less. But consider that you can reuse it over and over again. And you could make these. In theory, you can make them. I haven't really tried yet, but it's not very complicated. I mean, you look at this here. Let's see if I can get that zoomed in for you. Okay, so look at that there. It looks like a gun cleaning screw insert thing. It's not very complicated, so you could probably pick those up. Just buy a few of those, buy some arrows, saw them in half, fletch the glue on there, and you're good to go. But you know, you want to test it at lower poundages at the start, just to make sure to test, you know, the braking strength and whatnot. And I haven't really decided what sort of kit I would like to put this in. You know, what sort of bag or whatever. I mean, you probably could just wrap it in something, and you know, keep all the smaller things in like something like the Maxpedition, one of their packs. But you know, I think that's something I'm going to work on in the future. One more thing I wanted to say is that the 3-blade broadheads are probably going to pack a lot harder than the 2-blade broadhead. Now this one has a bit of a curvature on it. I'm sure you can see that. The blades are slightly curved. That gives a bit more spin. And there is, this one's actually broken, but there's supposed to be another one of these little blades on this side, but it's broken off. Still good for target practice anyways. I probably could just break this blade off here, unscrew it. Now, as I said before, if you can get arrowheads that are broadheads, you know, manufactured ones that are all one piece of metal, that's ideal, because you're not going to run into problems. Sometimes with broadheads, they get loose and you need to screw them back in tighter or whatever. But, you know, so that's something to consider also. But these pack a lot easier. It can pack flat as opposed to one of these. And that's a smaller one. And it's a cheaper one, which is, you can actually break it down into its component parts. But, you know, having to reassemble it and stuff like that would be kind of difficult. And like I said before, you can make broadheads out of sheet metal, out of razor blades. You can make string out of fishing line. You can make fletching and vanes out of duct tape. Fully functional bowstring, fully functional bows out of PVC pipe. 70-pound bows out of PVC pipe. Backyard Bower, check out his channel. Great channel. Anyways, I just wanted to share that with you today. I don't want this video to go on too long, so, which it already has, unfortunately. Anyways, let me know what you think, and thanks for watching. Canadian Prepper out.